Welcome to the Cloud Accounting Podcast, a show for accountants using technology to make their jobs more strategic and impactful. I'm Blake Oliver.
And I'm David Leary.
It's been a bit of a light week on news, but there's a lot going on. Folks are at XeroCon this week. Unfortunately, I couldn't be there. I was at the one in Austin, so Atlanta just wasn't in the cards for me. Are you getting to recuperate after all of your travels recently?
Yeah, I've taken some time off. I was up in Flagstaff, Arizona. So I got to, instead of it being 106, it was 91, which is a lot cooler for sure.
That's considered winter where you live, right?
Some days it feels like that. Yeah. Looks like though the news keeps coming this summer. I did see an article this week that I think touches home to you. Aprio, they're going to acquire HPC. And if I remember correctly, HPC is who acquired your cloud accounting software company a few years back, correct?
Yeah, in 2015, I joined cloud sourced accounting, which was my bookkeeping firm, joined with HPC. And I went on to work as the director of marketing and technology there for about a year before I left. So it's really exciting to see that HPC is doing so well.
Yeah, and it looks like this is very strategic around them trying to acquire a cloud platform and take that jump of their firm. And then really about the expertise HPC is going to bring to the table when it comes to automated data entry, machine learning, artificial intelligence. So instead of trying to learn this on their own, they're acquiring, a cloud practice, which is really good for any bookkeepers or accountants that have already moved to cloud. Like those are the firms that are going to get purchased and acquired in the future.
Yep. And Aprio is ranked 51 on Accounting Today's 2018 list of the top 100 firms. And they have 51 partners. Before the deal, they had 51 partners and 400 professionals in 4 offices. So yeah, like you said, this is really exciting to see a top 100 firm embracing modern cloud accounting.
Yeah. And it's a victory for, the early adopters out there.
Very exciting. So hopefully we'll see more of this in the top 100 and more of those learnings from small firms reaching into the bigger firms. So I've got a story of my own to share. So actually kind of related to this, one of the things that is unique about HPC is that it is a completely virtual accounting firm, virtual CPA firm. And this story, which appeared in CNN Money, might enable more of that for more cloud accounting firms to work remotely. It's an article about Vermont. The state of Vermont is going to be paying people up to $10,000 to move there and work remotely. So eligible workers can get up to $5,000 a year, not to exceed $10,000 over 2 years through the state's new remote worker grant program. And the legislation was signed, I believe, last week. The money can be used on qualified expenses, including costs to relocate, necessary computer equipment and software, internet access, and co-working memberships. And the stated purpose of this legislation, according to the Commissioner of Economic Development for Vermont, is that Vermont has a small and aging population, and they need to recruit people to come to that state, I presume, to pay taxes. To be eligible, a worker has to be a full-time employee for an out-of-state business, work primarily from home or a co-working space in Vermont, and become a full-time resident on or after January 1st, 2019.
I think it's for the individual, right? I think it's kind of an amazing type stance. But then I'm sure other states, the South Dakotas, all these other states with shrinking populations are probably going to start offering the same thing. So is it going to go up, right? Is it going to be more beneficial? I think it's interesting, though. It's also tying it back to like the whole sales tax, e-commerce, Nexus stuff as well, right? As things become more and more remote and virtual, what is the impact of this with the states and the tax revenues and, as this moves forward? Because if it's not, it was e-commerce Nexus a couple of years back, and that argument continues on to this day. Now it's this incentive to get people to work remotely. You and I don't even know what it's going to be 3 years from now. But you can see this trend where as things go cloud and things go remote, it impacting governments locally. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, and if more and more states that have aging populations start doing this, like you said, perhaps, the Dakotas will do this or whatnot. That could accelerate the drain from expensive places to those cheaper areas to live where people might be able to work remote. So this could accelerate the trend toward remote work and fewer workers in the office.
Because I think it's happening already. The Omaha and the Boulder, Colorados, and people are starting to relocate to these other cities because they want the lifestyle. and they're taking remote jobs. So
yeah,
you're right. This could accelerate it.
Speaking of the cloud, I came across a survey that may be of interest. It's the CPA Firm Management Association, CPAMFA.org. They conducted their 2018 IT survey. This is mid-size and large CPA firms. 174 firms participated, 88% of which were 10 members or more, and 40% of which were multi-office. There's a ton of information in the survey, so I'll put the link to the CPA Practice Advisor in the show notes. The one I found particularly interesting was a finding that more than half of firms, 51%, that responded to the survey had outsourced their entire IT infrastructure to the cloud. And that's an increase from 2016, where only 23% had made the jump. So we went from 23% fully in the cloud for their IT infrastructure to 51% in 2 years. That's kind of amazing, right? I mean, we're beyond the tipping point when it comes to cloud.
Oh, I truly think that way. I mean, we loosely talked a little bit last week about, the QuickBooks Online adoption numbers and where we're at in the last 5 or 6 years. But yeah, it just doesn't make sense. I mean, if you do the math, like why would you try to have a server running in a closet in your office, right? And all the associated cost and even the non-monetary cost, right? Just the headaches of that just don't make a lot of sense. And I think people are, maybe as the server they bought 5 years ago, 10 years ago now dies, needs to be replaced. They're making this decision. Why should I even bother? I'll just, put it all in the cloud.
Yeah, very exciting. Hey, so I've got a bunch of app updates I was thinking I could just run through.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's jump through.
All right. Number one, Gusto. They've launched their own directory of accountants, like the QuickBooks Pro Advisor directory or the Xero Advisor directory. Now you can go on Gusto's website, whether or not you're a Gusto customer, and you can find accountants that provide payroll, benefits, HR, consulting services. I
think that's a good thing, right? It's because small businesses are going to find, if they just need somebody that's a specialist in payroll, they can get that person. And then if that is you as the accounting firm or a bookkeeper, if that's your niche, it's going to let you it gives you a place to bubble up and be number one, if you want to use that terminology.
Yeah, it's really interesting and sort of a way for cloud accounting firms to differentiate themselves by focusing on that HR and payroll help. And this made me think about my own time when I had my own firm. Probably the advice and help that we gave our clients about payroll and HR was more valuable to them than any of the bookkeeping work that we did, because they were really stressed out about hiring and paying and providing benefits. And so it was a big relief to them when we did that. Perhaps this sort of service line may end up becoming even more important than the accounting.
Yeah, and I think there's an opportunity for the accountants that are in that space to provide different types of service, right? Beyond just, hey, I'm going to cut your paychecks. And so I think this is a place for it gives people a place to be discovered, which doesn't really exist. I don't think there's any other, directory out there of payroll experts.
So speaking of accountants broadening into other lines of business, Spotlight Reporting has announced a new partnership with a wealth management platform called My Prosperity. So they're going to be integrating My Prosperity, which is a software for wealth managers, into Spotlight Reporting, which is reporting FP&A tool for small businesses, dashboards and whatnot. So advisors using Spotlight, which are mostly accountants and CPAs, are going to be able to offer wealth management in combination with that. So I think that's pretty interesting. What do you think, David?
I think it's I think I saw a stat recently, sometime this week. I don't know where I saw it though, that accounting firms that provide strategic advising are growing their firm at 11 to 10% or 11 to 15% faster than firms that don't offer any advising. So if you can advise your clients, small business, but then also advise them on some of their personal wealth decisions as well, you're just going to be able to maximize your revenue, right? And so I think this is especially if they partner and the UI starts to look and feel and taste the same between the two products. It just makes you as the accountant or bookkeeper providing that advisory service more efficient, right? Especially if the partnership is beyond just that, we're cross blog posting with each other, right? If it's truly they start doing software integration at a deep level, it could actually help.
So I mentioned Gusto earlier and their new directory of advisors. Their big competitor, ADP, has also been innovating. They are now integrating with Slack. So companies that are using both ADP for payroll and HR and using Slack for their team chat can now give their employees a way to interact with ADP without them having to leave Slack. So this uses Slack's / commands. For example, now you can check your time off balance from within Slack by typing / ADP time off. You can submit time off requests. You can find out pay stub information directly in Slack. So not like a earth-shattering feature, but I was surprised to see this coming from ADP, a big behemoth in the space that is not typically known for its forward-thinking technology take.
Yeah. So if I'm an employee and I'm in Slack, I want to see my pay stub, I can just type a command, view pay stub, and boom, it's returned to me. I don't have to go out to a second website, et cetera. That's cool. That's an interesting one. I think I'll interrupt you here because there's what's new in QuickBooks Online for May. Oh, yeah. And so this is totally related to, we're talking payroll employees. Here we go. The number one feature request for QuickBooks Online got implemented, and you can now pay 1099 contractors. Yes, technically it's not payroll, but it's not W-2 employees, but you can pay your 1099 contractors using direct deposit, which is just huge. You don't have to do a workaround or go out and pass it through another service like Bill.com or something to do ACH deposits to contractors. You can do them right from within inside of QuickBooks Online now. And then the other thing they added in was they added progress invoicing, which has been a request for a while.
Yeah, progress invoicing is really important. And I mean, you could always do it with workarounds, but it's great to actually see it in the application.
Yeah, and then we're allow people to have some control over that, right? You can just do all the lines. You can do it as a percentage, or you can customize each amount. So we're giving people control, and it's just one more thing where it makes QuickBooks Online that much more powerful than it was, a year ago. Or people that maybe are saying, "Oh, I won't move to QuickBooks Online until it has X feature." Well, this is one of those features that people have been waiting for.
Mm-hmm. Hey, well, speaking of invoicing, Practice Ignition, the practice management / proposals / invoicing tool for accountants and bookkeepers, has released a new feature called proposal reminders, which means that now the application will follow up automatically for you, if you so choose, to remind your prospects that they have a proposal outstanding, that they should view it and hopefully accept it. So that's a nice little feature to automate a previously tedious task of reminding folks.
So similar to if I send out an invoice, somebody doesn't pay it, there's tons of services that will constantly email them and contact that customer and say, hey, you have an overdue invoice, you need to pay it. They're essentially doing that now with proposals.
Exactly. And because proposals can be set to expire, you definitely want to make sure that those reminder emails are going out so that you don't have to then recreate a proposal.
It's interesting. It'd be interesting if they ever have a blog post or release data about that, because why are people letting proposals linger? Like I get not paying a bill, right? Like either A, you don't have the money, or you just didn't get around to paying it, but it would be interesting on why the proposals linger.
Well, and that's an important aspect of sales in professional services, is that when you send a proposal, you never want it to be just an open-ended proposal that the customer can accept whenever they want, because they might come back 6 months later and accept it, and then you realize your pricing has changed and you didn't get the opportunity to update that. And also, it's annoying when that happens, right? Because you're ready to get going, you have capacity, you may not have it in 6 months. So it's always important to set a tight deadline for acceptance of the proposal, such as the end of the month. It creates urgency, which is always really important in the buying process. And so the reminders help you set shorter deadlines and more urgency to get people to actually click, okay, I'm going to do this.
Or at least decline it. So that way, at least you know that as well.
Exactly. Right? So you have better metrics, right? When you have a firm no versus just something outstanding, you know what your pipeline really is.
I have nothing else for this week. How about you?
I've got just one more, really quite a few feature updates. Xero has integrated now with Paychex. So actually some more payroll news. So we had Gusto, ADP, and now Paychex. Paychex is doing a direct integration with Xero, which is really nice. I had a few clients that were on Paychex back in the day, and it was always a real hassle to get that information into Xero. So great to see now all the major payroll companies integrating. Yeah,
I think off and on, I've chatted with Paychex over the years about them just getting to cloud, and I know they acquired a company called Sure Payroll, right? And Sure Payroll was kind of a cloud platform. They're based out of Chicago, I think. But in general, I always felt like Paychex was just decades behind everybody else's mindset. So it's good to see like maybe leadership at Paychex has changed. And now they're, starting to integrate to cloud accounting packages finally.
Well, that's all I've got for this week, David. If folks are interested in seeing more of these updates, getting all of the news that I'm following on a weekly basis, please consider subscribing to Cloud Accounting Weekly, my weekly newsletter for accountants interested in technology. You can get to that at cloudaccountingweekly.com.
I'm subscribed, so that's good. And if any of you have any ideas for articles, please tweet at me at David Leary or it's Blake T. Oliver, correct?
That's right, at Blake T. Oliver on Twitter.
Perfect. And we will talk to you guys next week.
Thanks, David. Talk to you later.
Awesome. Bye.